Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name's Lyric, and if you're new here, thanks for showing up. Before I get into the video, I want us to talk about what I'm currently reading, which I'm actually reading two books, but the first one is Love in Vain 2 by Poppy Zebright. This is a collection of short stories that kind of go around the idea of vampirism. It's not necessarily your standard vampire stories. They're a bit creepier and a bit different. I am 3 stories into this one, but I've already finished the first Love in Vain and really enjoyed it. The next book that I'm reading right now is Illuminae. I literally just started, as in cracking open the first page. So this is my current read. I am kind of nervous because I kind of got a little bit spoiled about what it's about, and I don't know if it's something that I should be reading right now, but going to anyway. What's really cool about this book is it's not told just as, straight prose or anything. It's told through files, thus the full name being the Illuminae files. But I'm really excited to kind of break up what I've been reading and see something different. Okay, so the main part of this video is me talking about my TBR, but also how I do my TBRs. So I'm a bit different with that because I kind of do a stack of 8 at a time, and it's always rotating, and I have different categories of books that I want to do. I started this one because 8 is my lucky number, most importantly, but also because I have a ton of books and I do want to make it my goal to actually read through my entire shelf, but that's a little hard when I also have a really bad book buying habit. So TBRs, never ending, kind of gotta make sure that I'm actually reading what's on my shelf. So it started out as being a goal to just read through my books. I keep my books mostly in alphabetical order. We'll talk a bit about the exceptions later, but for the most part it's alphabetical. So I try to just read alphabetically, and I still haven't made it past the B's because I keep buying more books. So I set up my TBR this way to kind of make sure that I'm diversifying what I'm picking up. I have eliminated a nonfiction category because what would happen is I'd read fiction, nonfiction, and it would just slow me down. So maybe I'll switch one of these out for that in the future, but for right now, no thanks. So without further ado, let me go into what's actually on my current TBR and what the categories are. The first book on my TBR is actually in the category alphabetical. Now, going back to what I said, I have bought a new book that's actually an A, so that's going to be on the next list. But for now, it is The Coldest Girl in Coldtown by Holly Black. I am very excited to read this because I really like the Cool Prince series, and I have read some of her other Fae books, but I haven't read anything of this nature, and as you can kind of tell from what I'm currently reading, I'm really excited. So now when I describe the books that I'm currently reading on my TBR, I'm just going to describe what I know about them. That might not be the best description, maybe you'll get more in a wrap-up, but I don't want to look up too much more than what I knew when I bought it. So this, from what I understand, is about vampires. That's all I know. I know that Holly Black wrote it, Books and Lala likes it, and it's kind of about vampires. So that was enough for me to pick it up, and I'm really excited to get into this once I finish Illuminae. The next book on my TBR is going to be in the category series. So I try to keep a series in rotation, one, so I don't just binge a whole series all at once and kind of ignore the rest of my TBR, which I still typically end up doing anyway, but so that I can actually get through some of the books that maybe I have the first book in the series, but not the rest, so I can kind of have the opportunity to start series that maybe I had been overlooking. So this one is actually a sequel, and it's The Raven King. The last series that I read was The Selection, and I had started The Raven King, but started the Foxhole Court books, but I didn't have anything past the first one. So now I have this one and the last one, so I'm going to go ahead and knock these out in my series category. The Raven King and the Foxhole Court is about a group of boys that play the fictional sport XP or XE, or however you want to say it, and it's all about their angst, the sport, their love for that sport, and all of the hijinks that comes with it. I talk about the first book a little bit in a different video that's coming later, but for now, I'm really excited to see where this goes. They're just kind of fun, weird little, you know, tidbits, little books that I kind of want to just hammer out and enjoy. So now comes to the next little category that actually switches out the most, because the category is recent purchase. So even though this is what's in the stack now, I have had like at least 2 more buying trips since then. So what's going to be in it next is going to be a surprise even to me and my wallet. But the next book is Warcross by Mary Lou. So this one, I actually had I was talking about it with someone on Bookstagram, and we might buddy read it. They asked me to let them know when I'm going to read it. So if I do that, it'll be my first buddy read, and I'm very excited for that. But essentially, it's Ready Player One, but not. That's pretty much what I know about it. It's kind of like a similar concept. Not gonna lie, I was mostly interested in this book because I really like the cover, and I didn't really like Ready Player One, but I did like the concept, so I'm willing to give another book with a similar premise a chance to see if maybe I like that better. I don't know, I don't think I talked about it very much in my last book video, but I have a huge love for Neil Gaiman. Not just his works, but his work ethic, and that he's constantly putting something new out, something new and different and exciting in my opinion. So I have a category that's strictly Neil Gaiman books because I'm kind of growing a Neil Gaiman collection. No lie, I think I have 30 Neil Gaiman or Sandman type inspired books. So with that being said, I kind of need to read them so they're not just sitting there taking up space. So one of the categories is reading a Neil Gaiman, and this time it's a comic. So this is Lady Justice Volume 1, and I literally have no idea what it's about. I do know that on my Goodreads, it's one of the lowest rated books, which I mean, it's still like, I want to say a 3, but it's one of the lowest rated. So I'm a little nervous and curious about why that is, and if I'm going to think it's not as good as other things I've read by him or secretly fall in love with it. So Lady Justice, maybe she's a lady who does justice. That's all I know. And going off of Neil Gaiman, because a lot of times these two kind of align just because he does do a lot of comics or graphic novels or even children's books, I have a category that's specifically manga, graphic novels, or comics. I love manga. I love comics, specifically superhero comics too, and I wanted to be able to have a category for these so that I'm actually reading them, you know, regularly instead of just plowing through fiction, which is obviously my main preference. So this next one, How Loathsome, is actually a gifted book from a friend of mine. I did a gift exchange and he sent me this one, which is one of his favorites. I've tried to read it before and I didn't really get into it. I can't really remember what specifically it was about, but I know it's important to my friend, so I'm really excited to try it again, see if maybe this time I have better luck and better understanding of the context and better memory to what it's actually even about. And so this is taking place in category book, manga, comic, graphic novel, long category. Also, if I have multiples, like I've actually have the volume 2 for Lady Justice in this category, I tend to just read all my manga in one go if that's a manga in here. So this is also a category that I kind of could get stuck in, but spending a whole day reading the entirety of Ouran High School Host Club is not a bad day for me at all. So this category kind of gets a little bit of leeway. The next category, and there's actually 2, I use this one twice so you'll see it again, is what I call my want category. I don't want to just have books that I feel like I'm reading to fill, you know, categories. I want to have books that I'm actually super excited about, and maybe I've bought something before then so they're not recent purchases, or maybe I've had it for a while but some reason I just got this bug that I need to read it. So I have a category that specifically want, and currently this category includes Wilder Girls. So technically this could be kind of a recent purchase. I think it was supposed to be, but I moved it. I am currently moving, and I went to go look at the area that I'm moving to, and of course scoped out all the book stores that they had, and I picked up Wilder Girls while I was doing that, and I have wanted this book, and I kept going back and forth and adding different things to my cart, and finally I was like, look, it's here, I'm gonna get it. I know, once again, I'm gonna reference Books and Lala. I know that she really liked this book. I've heard a lot about it. It's not super new, but it's not very old. I think it came out within the last couple years. But the concept is so weird. I don't know too much about it. A lot of people say it's like Lord of the Flies, but I've also heard that that comparison's not completely accurate. But I know that it does include body horror, and since that's a section of horror that I haven't really read a lot in, and I actually think I might find it specifically creepy to me, and that's kind of the point, I wanted to give this a chance. Also, I cannot deny that cover buy is a thing again. This is something that I'm extremely excited to read, so thus it earns its want title, and I also want to see if I like it. Based on the premise, I want to give it to my How Loathsome friend. So there's a lot of reasons to go ahead and knock it out, and unfortunately it's at the bottom of the list right now, but I'll be getting to it pretty soon. Next, I know I kind of mentioned in my last video that I do get Book of the Month books. That's a mouthful. So I made a specific category because when I kind of started Book of the Month fairly recently. Well, I'll be coming up on my year in October, and I wanted to get all of the books that were backlisted, so I really take advantage of their add-ons. So each month lately, I've been getting 3 books a month. And 3 books a month, 12 times a year, that's a lot to keep up with, especially when some of them are, or a lot of them, are new releases, and you kind of want to keep up with the new releases, but then backstock comes, and you know, that's how TBRs work. So with this one, I created a category just for my Book of the Month books, so that I don't really get behind. And a lot of times with the Book of the Month selections, I kind of choose things that I might be separate from something that I would have just bought. Maybe it's something that wasn't in my wish list or I didn't really know about, and then I buy it or get it for my selection. So this keeps me putting those books in rotation, and if I don't like it, they're not just sitting there never to be read. So with that being said, this is a book that I'm actually pretty excited about. This is Ruth Ware, The Turn of the Key. Now, the only reason I haven't read this yet is because around the time that I actually got it for my book selection, another book was like, everyone was talking about it, and they were talking about these 2 books in the same breath. And that book was Lock Every Door by Riley Sagar. And I thought that book was just fine. I didn't love it. In fact, I think because it was so overhyped, I may like dislike it a bit disproportionately to what I actually felt. I enjoyed it when I read it, but then I was kind of like, okay, like that was fine. But so many people gush and rave about that book, and they talked about it at the same time as The Turn of the Key, so I was kind of like, do I want to read this book? But I feel like enough time has passed since I've read Lock Every Door that I won't constantly be comparing it in my head, and I can kind of go into this fresh and kind of see how is it. I mentioned in that last video too that I've kind of had a bit of a downfall with some of the thrillers I've been reading lately, so I'm willing to throw one in, give it a chance, and I have heard that this is really good, so fingers crossed, hopefully. I think the concept, which I haven't even mentioned, is really cool. It's basically The Turn of the Screw, but set in a smart house, from what I understand. That's weird. The movie Smart House by Disney is one of my all-time favorite DComs, so I keep picturing the mom in that movie when thinking about this. I'm kind of wondering how similar it actually will end up being. Anyway, it's worth a shot. And the last book, so therefore the last category, is my second want category. I wanted to keep those two kind of similar because the way that it typically goes is my alphabetical one, I might go a little slow because it's usually not one that I'm like urgently wanting to read. In this case, it is one that I want to read really bad. But I kind of hit kind of like, you know, a little bit slow series, you know, everything. And then my, you know, mangas normally speed up because they're normally ones that I read really quickly. No gaming, same thing. And then I hit my wants. And so it kind of like refreshes before I go back into the alphabetical, which I may or may not be like urgently into right then. So second want category, I recently watched this movie with my mom and I found it hilarious and really beautiful actually, so I wanted to read the book. So this is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, and like I said, I found the movie to be very funny and very breathtaking, and I really enjoyed watching it with my mom, and I knew that it was a series, so I wanted to give it a chance, especially to read the books before if they make a sequel to the movie. So it's actually a bit thicker than I thought it was going to be. Of course, this is like, you know, it's a small paperback, so maybe that's why. But I've heard that there's a few montages in this, and it's kind of different from the movie, so I want to see how much. I think it's always fun to do comparison, but you're normally not in the position of seeing the movie before you read the book. I haven't at least done that in a while, so I'm excited to see and compare. And if you guys want, maybe I'll do a comparison video because I do want to talk about books and films and a bunch of other geekery, but that will come later. But for now, this is my next want because it was very recently that I watched the movie with my mom, and I want to kind of read the book while it's still kind of fresh, but enough books in between that I won't be completely comparing it the whole time, hopefully. I've got a little bit ahead of me. So I'm hoping to finish Illuminae pretty quickly. I don't want to underestimate how dense it might be, even with the different filing system, but I'm thinking that I can get through it pretty easily, and so then I will be on to my next 8 pretty soon. So the way that I kind of want to do these TBRs is my next TBR video, once I get through all 8 of these, I'm doing my lifting, once I get through all 8 of these, I want to post a follow-up video that is half wrap up, half next TBR, so you guys can see the next set of 8 that I'm doing, and I can kind of talk about these and actually know what happens in them, thus wrapping up the book. So let me know what you guys think, and if there's a category in here that you think that I might be interested in putting something into. I know a lot of them are kind of very specific, but maybe you know a Neil Gaiman that you don't think I've read, or you have a graphic novel that you'd like, you know an author whose name starts with a B or A, since I can't get past those. So let me know your recommendations. Let me know if any of these books excite you, or if you've read them. No spoilers. I'm always looking for new books, even when I shouldn't be, and I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. With that in mind, you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.